is charcoal. Now, charcoal is also a drawer, and charcoal can penetrate very deep into the area, drawing, but castor oil is unique. We talked about the drawing powers of potato, we talked about the drawing powers of the onion, but where charcoal is unique, it will absorb and neutralise poisons. Nothing else will do that. And in hospitals today, they use charcoal for poisoning cases. One girl said to me, I had an overdose and they gave me a choice to have my stomach pumped out or take charcoal. She said, I chose the charcoal. So charcoal absorbs and neutralises poisons. So it can be used internally and it can be used externally. Now, charcoal doesn't have a taste. And you can use it if any poison has been ingested. And it can also be used if a person has diarrhea or gastric or bloating. The charcoal, when it's taken, will absorb and neutralise the poisons and can bring a lot of relief. So if ever I had a baby that had a bit of diarrhea, I'd give them a bit of charcoal. And when I got the black nappy, because I didn't use disposable nappies, I knew that my baby was well. Because once that charcoal goes through, it absorbs and neutralises the poisons. So you can use it internally and you can use it externally. You use it externally, again, for cases of poisoning. So it can be used for a bee sting, a ant bite, a snake bite. You don't have many snakes here. We have a few in Australia. Spider bites. Do you have spiders? Oh, maybe we don't need to talk about the chocolate. Wasps, bees, any sting, it's quite incredible. You almost have to experience it to believe it, that it takes the pain out straight away. And the reason it takes the pain out is because it absorbs and neutralises the poisons. In fact, under a microscope, charcoal has lots of little facets, and it's all those little facet or surface areas that absorb the poison. Now, how do you take it? You can just mix it with water and drink it, like drinking black water. Again, it has no taste. Or to use as a poultice, you have to put it with something, because mixing charcoal and water is like mixing dirt and water. So for a poultice, you could mix it with a bit of flour, you could mix it with a little polenta, but two that most natural therapists would use would be ground linseed. So ground linseed, when you pour boiling water on it, it goes like a jelly. Or what I have done is I've put linseed in a saucepan with water, I've cooked it for about 5 minutes and it goes like a jelly. And then you would add the charcoal to it. And that makes a very nice poultice, especially if someone's got a boil or a wound. It's very good on boils for ingrown toenails, things like that. You could use potato or you could use this. Whenever there's pus in an area, I like to use charcoal because it'll absorb and neutralise the poison. So the other thing that I use is slippery elm. So let me take a moment to talk about slippery elm, and then I will show you how to make the poultice. Slippery elm is the powdered bark of the slippery elm tree. And when you put water with slippery elm, it goes like a thick jelly. Now, slippery elm has a growth stimulant in it, so it's excellent for healing the gastrointestinal tract. I talked about it earlier in the week. So when you put slippery elm with water, you would put about a teaspoon with about half a cup of warm water. You have to mix very well and drink it down or it'll go very thick. So if I have a guest who maybe has some diarrhea and sore gut, I'll say, are you ready? And when they nod, I mix it, say drink, drink. If you mix it and put it down, it'll go thick, and then you're eating it with a spoon. And one man said he doesn't mind eating it with a spoon. Well, he can eat it with a spoon if he wants. But most people would prefer to drink it down before it goes too thick. I'm going to show you how to make a slippery elm and charcoal poultice. Maybe this is for a bee sting. So I use about a teaspoon of slippery elm, and see it's like a powder. And then I'm going to use a teaspoon of charcoal. You never want to drop this jar. So I use about the same amount. You always put the lid back on the jar very carefully. When I was in the rainforest, I just used to use the charcoal out of the fire, and I would blend it, and if I did blend it, I couldn't open the blender for about half an hour. You have to wait for it settles down. Or sometimes I put it in a bag and get the rolling pin and crush it. But now that I'm civilised, I buy activated charcoal. And it's a nice fine white powder. Sorry, black powder. Fine powder is what I meant to say. And it's a lot easier to drink or use because there's no lumps in it like my rainforest charcoal. But it does the same thing. Activated charcoal is a little bit more potent. They slowly combust it and put a fine layer of moisture over it, and it activates it so it's a bit more potent. But any charcoal will work. So I have got here, I think you can see it, don't want to tip it too much, is I've just mixed the charcoal and the slippery elm, and now I'm going to put a bit of water. I'm not sure how much. Put a little bit of water in it, and if it's too thick, add a bit more water. If it's too runny, then add a bit more slippery elm, so you play with it. And what I'm aiming is that this mixture here will be almost like a lump of jelly. So I'm mixing, and I shall put it in a poultice in a minute and you will see it. And this is quite quick to mix up. I was gardening one day and a jumping ant bit me. Jumping ants are very, very painful. Jumping ants, it feels like there's a knife gone in. And I was so busy gardening, I didn't want to stop and make a poultice, so I just grabbed a bit of ice and put it on it. And of course that'll stop all inflammation. And as soon as the ice had melted, the pain came back with a vengeance. And I did this 3 times, and then I realised it was going to be much easier to just go in, make a poultice, put it on my finger and go back to gardening, which I did. And when I put the charcoal poultice on, all the pain went. It just goes like that. It's incredible. And I just kept that on my finger all afternoon. It's almost you wonder if you really did get bitten, because it just takes it away. Now, can you see the consistency I've got? And that's basically the slippery elm that's giving it that consistency. And so now I'm going to make it into a poultice. So I'll put the plastic down and I'll get the chucks. And you might see this going into the poultice. So can you see it's like a lump of jelly? And one of the beauties of that is that the slippery elm is also a drawer. And it's the same with the linseed. It is also a drawer too. So you've got a double whammy effect. And you spread it out. I'll hold it up and show it to you. In fact, it's almost like you're spreading it like peanut butter. Can you see that? And the beauty of the slippery elm is it really is just holding it in place. And then you fold over like you did the other poultices. And you can see that that's one of the beauties of the chucks. It's starting to come through the holes already. Now, where would I use this? Again, I would use it on a snake bite, an ant bite, a bee sting, a wasp bite, any poisoning cases. But you can also use that on a sore eye. That will bring a lot of relief to a sore eye. And you can also use it on a boil. And again, as I mentioned before, any case where you've got swollen and you've got pus, and you might say, well, wouldn't you use the grated potato? You certainly could. You might do grated potato one time, and you might do the charcoal another time. But wherever you've got any poison,